Shoto Atheist.
And now we proceed with the negative opening statement of Shoto. 10 minutes. Shoto, the floor is yours.
Hello, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very honored tonight to debate Charles. Thank you, Atheist teacher, at sa mga nag-host nitong debate namin ni Charles. So, by the way, I think I will present the three arguments in favor of atheism as opposed to theism para i-demonstrate na hindi nag-i-exist yung God ni Charles. So, before I begin, gusto ko na i-clarify na yung main goal ko is not to attack the Bible itself, to list an exhaustive amount of biblical inconsistencies and contradictions from history to science. So my main goal is to show that the concept of Charles God is not possible to exist in our reality. Because why? Because if I'm successful to demonstrate that Charles God doesn't exist, then walang way kay Charles para mag-proceed into the Bible. Since the Bible itself cannot prove itself, and proving itself would be circular. And we know that circular reasoning is not knowledge, and hence, yung first step ni Charles is to prove that his God exists, and after that, he will now be able to attribute that in a specific or particular holy textbook. So now let me begin my argument. So argument from scale, or argument to sa sukat. Yung premise 1, if an all-loving and anthropomorphic God exists, then magkikreate siya ng human-centered universe. Yung universe na hindi tayo makaka-feel na hindi tayo insignificant or important. So, but the premise too is that the immense scale of the universe, since sobrang lawak ng universe with its vast distances and innumerable celestial objects, that makes human feel insignificant and irrelevant sa universe natin. So, ang sub-conclusion natin, hence, an anthropomorphic God therefore do not exist. This is followed from premise 1 to premise 2. So our premise 3 will be, since the God of the Bible is anthropocentric, when we say anthropocentric, sinasabi natin na merong human qualities, and therefore our main conclusion will be that the God of the Bible do not exist. So now you may see that my argument is merely appealing to emotion, because it's all about human significance and what humans feels about it. So totoo yun. This both appeal to emotion and a fact. It is a fact that the universe is so vast, and dahil sa sobrang laki ng universe, this make us feel irrelevant due to its vastness. So, note na yung fallacy of emotion is nangyayari lang siya when you try to attribute the entire argument based on one's emotion. For example, if hindi mo paniniwalaan na totoo yung P, iiyak ako, therefore paniniwalaan mo na totoo yung P. So that's the classical example of appeal to emotion. But in my case, my argument is both based on fact and fact about the universe. So there's no any fallacy within the argument. So looking back in human history, alam natin na yung mga Christians, they adapted the idea that the earth is the center of the universe because it makes them feel so much important. So not until Copernicus revolutionized how the way we understand the accurate precision of earth as a universe, which in reality, hindi nga talaga sentro ng universe yung earth, not even our solar system. So this was later on confirmed by Galileo, which caused him to be punished by house arrest after ng trial niya sa Inquisition. So not until 1922, where the Vatican Pope have admitted that Galileo was actually right. So going back to our argument, in the world of theism, mag-expect tayo na yung human-oriented designer is mag-create ng human-oriented universe, which means hindi siya gaanong kalaki at hindi gaanong random. So that we feel important. But yung universe natin, as we know it, is so vast and it's random. So therefore, we conclude na walang human-oriented designer such as the God in the Bible. So as what William Lane Craig said, David Manley are making up the point that the cozy pre-Copernican cosmology, as what C.S. Lewis called the discarded image of the cosmos, theism seemed vastly more probable than atheism, like a Fabergé egg, the little universe centered on the earth with the spheres of the planets and fixed stars revolving about it, cried out for an explanation in terms of a cosmic designer. So, nag-agree si William Lane Craig sa point natin dito na yung vast universe is more probable in atheism and small earth-centered universe is more probable in theism. So, in a world na kung saan ang human are the main event, as theists claim, we should expect that most of our history must be all about us. But we just appear in the cosmic calendar not just too long ago. So, if try natin na assume na lahat ng bagay is nangyari in just in 24 hours, then we just arrive for about seconds ago. So we are very, very young. So this shouldn't happen. If theism is true, it must be that humanity has dominated the entirety of the cosmic calendar if we are the main event of the universe, but it is not. So the probability of theism being true in our reality is low, while atheism being true is high, and we therefore conclude that the God of the Bible do not exist. So another argument that I'm going to present tonight is the evidential problem of evil. So this kind of problem is related to the original version na tinatawag na logical problem of evil. So this kind of argument has existed for a very long time, since the time ni Epicurus, na yung original author ng argument. So it is a problem that is so hard na yung mga theists had to make another field of study just to reconcile the existence of God, omnipotence, and existence of evil. And we came to know this field as theodicy. So the argument followed this way. Premise 1, if an all-powerful and all-loving God exists, then unjustified evil shouldn't exist. Premise 2, unjustified evil exists, and therefore God does not exist. From premise 2 to premise 1. So in this case, the evidential problem of evil, wala tayong ina-attack sa logical coherence nature ni God, but we are asking, what good reasons do God have for permitting evil? And what we are referring to is a certain type of evil. Tinatawag to na natural evil. So this kind of evil na distinct siya sa moral evil, a kind of evil na hindi natin kinocommit or hindi tayo responsible. So it just natural occur. For example, typhoons, as a volcanic eruption, extinction events, tsunamis, and so on. And this result to the so-called gratuitous suffering. So this kind of suffering doesn't bear out any greater good, personal growth, moral lesson, or any higher plan. So iba siya sa normal suffering lang na tinatawag natin. So a good example in this gratuitous suffering is the reindeer that was caused by a forest fire, caused by a random thunderstorm, burned into crisp along with other animals. So what do you think is the purpose of God para sunugin ng isang reindeer sa gitna ng isang forest? This is pointless suffering with animals. And let's also remember that most of life history is nag-occur before existence in humans. And it is also important to note that 99% of God's creation already went into extinction. So obviously this is not fine-tuning but naturally occurring. And furthermore, according to UNICEF data, there's about 14,000 children under the age of 5 each single day die due to starvation, infectious diseases such as malaria, diarrhea, pneumonia. 48 women are raped every hour, a total of 1,152 rape cases every day, and many, many more. If you think about it, this is an odd and strange occurrence in which the world that there is an all-powerful and holy good God. This shouldn't happen. So the sheer amount of suffering that innocent animals, children, and women have experienced cries out for an explanation of a benevolent creator. So this is a very argument, or it's a strong argument against theism. Furthermore, I will raise a single mortal evil that cannot also be accounted to God's nature of being all-loving. For example, rape women once again. So it's the famous case of Junko Furuta. So isa siyang Japanese student sa Japan who have undergone a tremendous amount of suffering sa kamay ng mga Yakuza for about 44 days. Raped for about 100 times multiple men, beaten terribly, her private parts were cut, including her nipples, and before getting thrown into a river, she was first mixed in a concrete. So how terrible is that? And what is the point of that gratuitous suffering? What good reason does God have to allow this kind of immense suffering that bears no any personal development or any moral lesson? So I hope Charles could give us a satisfactory answer to that deep question. So now we know that the existence of unjustified evil makes the case of theism highly unlikely and highly likely for atheism. We now proceed to our next argument. Our third argument will be based on one of the crucial philosophical principles known as Occam's razor. So it basically says this, that do not multiply entities beyond any means of necessities. Or to simply put, it says that you should not add or hindi ka mag-add ng unnecessary explanation unless it is needed. For example, meron tayong description of how did the universe arise out of natural point of view. And it works fine without God. So if it works fine, you should leave it alone. Do not add any unnecessary douchebag. So it will make just the whole case complicated. Imagine if you try to invoke God, it will raise more questions than we started with. For example, you have to explain how can a non-physical being interact with the physical things, how did God made something out of nothing, what God qualities are, etc., etc. We know that the universe is eternal, it is constantly observed in physics, that energy is neither created nor destroyed, but Charles might bring out the problem of infinite regression. Actually, not a problem for me. The Big Bang tells us about only of our own observable universe, and this presupposes the existence of other universes that might have caused the existence of our universe. So I treat the existence of the universe as an infinite chain of pocket universes rather than a brute fact, with no beginning or no end. So following the Occam's principle, we know that invoking God is unnecessary or redundant, so one should prefer simplistic explanation than theist offers. Therefore, the God of the Bible is unnecessary explanation. So now don't get me wrong, because whenever people hear the word simple, they usually mean that it must be easily understood. That's not how I mean by the word simple. I mean it has explanatory power of theist assumption. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you for your very good opening statements.